because the war on terror created no less than 10 million brown Muslim refugees. And they spread it west. Even in America now, there's like over 100,000 Palestinians, who had to leave their home, and you have racists and bigots who want to support 2 million more being created. So if there's more, if you do go war with Iran, I mean, there's like almost 100 million people in that country. How many millions more brown Muslim refugees are you going to create? And these people don't care. They think it's an inferior culture, it's inferior people. But I hope that this cycle can be broken. I hope that ignorance can be overcome, and people reject war. And then also, I hope that the ignorance of politics and economics can be overcome, and people reject the duopoly, and people reject the fiat Ponzi interest usury based system. So these are the few things I think that should be overcome. But I'm pretty doubtful, because it seems like the future is going to be with BRICS, because BRICS is where the resources of the world are. It's where the GDP is now. It's where most of the population is. It's where most of the things in this world are made. In the West, we have high level services. We put this stuff on top. For example, Apple, you design the products, but the product's made in China and other countries. There's not really going to be so much alpha on that, because China now creates high level products, and other countries in the East are advancing at a level where they can start producing the services and designs and stuff like that. So that competitive edge is disappearing, and it's also destroying the West in many ways, because for example, in Britain, where the financial districts, consulting and finance, it's where most of the money is put. But those things are drains on the economy, because they suck money out of the country and send it abroad, especially finance. And because of that, they have to keep the currency strong in the UK, which fucks everyone else up in the country, because it makes you less competitive for other things. That's why China keeps their currency low. And so, deindustrialization was a big mistake, and that's not one that I'm seeing any politician in the West have a good strategy in terms of overcoming and reversing. I'm not seeing a single politician talk. Even Trump's retarded, sorry if you use that word, a dumb trade war, tariff war, didn't help bring any jobs back to America. I can't. It didn't bring job. It didn't reindustrialize. If you had a serious politician, he would say, "I'm going to spend," because he's spending $1 trillion on war. For what, I don't know. It's dumb. He's spending $1 trillion. It's a record.
Wait. Get it right.
I did get it right. He said $1 trillion. It's going to be a record budget. $1 trillion for war, or defense spending, whatever the fuck you want to say. Anyways, what he could do instead, if he was serious, is spend $1 trillion on factories and reindustrialization and making jobs for Americans. Okay, that's what he should do. But he's not doing that. He's not doing that because he's just another puppet. He's just another fraud. The military-industrial complex always wins. And you have MAGA people who are completely brainwashed, like Tanya, who I'm sure she's going to spout a lot of bullshit. I'm looking forward to what you have to say, Tanya, and then we can see what the MAGA cult thinks about that.
No, I love you. I'm actually a libertarian.
Oh, you're libertarian? All right. I like libertarian in some ways and not in other ways, because if you don't have a
so you don't like anyone, and fuck you and your bullshit. Like, if you want to talk about factual, like if you want to actually debate on any topic,
can you mention a fact? Just mention a fact. Any fact. Go on, Tanya. Any fact. Mention one.
Oh, please. Let's talk about the border.
That's no facts? Okay, thank you. Thank you for proving that you have no facts.
No,
okay.
Hey, Tanya,
Okay,
calm down, Tanya, lower the estrogen.
No.
Yeah, Tanya, hang on. Tanya, can you give 3 bullet points that are data driven that you find distasteful about what Adam just suggested? Just list out 3, please.
I'm honestly open to hear. That's what I thought.
Do you eat beans for breakfast?
That's exactly what I thought.
Like,
this is MAGA. Everyone, this is MAGA. You ask for facts, and this is what you get. They all go in feelings.
And yes, I just want to call out. I did remove her. She didn't run away, but
okay.
I think it was eat beans or something. I was like, nope, that's the end of that.
know why they're always trying to push their tofu and their high soy diets, this vegan stuff. It's really bad for you. You guys should avoid that crap. It's goy slop that the Jews are pushing. They call themselves MAGA. I don't know. Be careful.
Yeah. I'd like to jump in at some point because I really don't like standing by and letting my good name be defamed.
You have no good name. You have no good name after what you said. You're so ignorant and hateful.
Shush, Adam.
And you have this calm voice. You have this very calm voice.
I wasn't next.
You think it makes you sound rational, but the shit that comes out of your mouth is ignorant, bro.
I just want to make sure that I get a chance to defend myself at some point.
You can defend yourself, but there's nothing to defend, man. There's nothing to... Like, if I spouted that low IQ bullshit that you said about Christianity or white people, I'd be rightfully just fucking hated, okay? And I wouldn't want to defend myself, because I would never say...
Wait for my turn, Adam. You'll get a chance. You'll get a chance when it's my turn.
Okay, I'll go back to my point, which was... It's funny about Tanya, actually, because that's an example of the future of the West. There's a lot of people like her. They go off emotions. You ask them for facts. They have none. They can't debate. They attack you personally. They run off feeling. They run off like, oh, I feel like this is good. And then people like Trump and people like Zionist Jews are experts in manipulating people like that who only operate off of feelings. It's like, yeah, fuck Iran. Look at them. They dress funny. Look at the Ayatollah. Oh, yeah, fuck them. They don't like women. Women are oppressed, you know? And then they don't, because to understand how women are oppressed in the West requires actual intelligence. It requires actual IQ to realize how fucked your culture has become. You know, but you don't want to admit it. You have people like Rabbi who think your culture is superior. Honestly, I say alhamdulillah every day that the East has not fallen, you know? And so I can go back home, and I will. And I'll enjoy it because it's still pure. You know, there's still the Palestinians, for example, they'll die with their own people, with their own religion, with their own language, you know, surrounded by the people that they love and their culture that they love, and they fight and they die for it. And it inspires them, and they have no fear in their hearts. Same for Yemen, the poorest country on earth, or one of the poorest countries on earth, that's shown everyone what it means to be a real man. You know, that is a culture that hasn't lost its way, that still has everything that people wish that they have. And when you look at the most depressed countries on earth, statistically, it's always Western countries that top the list, and you can figure out why. But I'll tell you, you don't find these in poorer countries that you look down on so much. And yes, you have a point about some cultural things, such as cousin marriage. I despise it. I don't like it. I'm not a fan of that. You know, and I get some hate for that sometimes, and I don't care, you know, because some cultures prefer it, but it's nothing to do with religion. There's nothing that's ordained to do that shit. And anytime that, you know, a bigot, like Rabbi wants to mention something bad about Islam, it's always some specific cultural trend on one of the 50, and I mean 50 Muslim countries that exists. And they'll always try and pick one case from one country and say, oh, this represents it. No, there's 50 countries. There's so many different things to choose from. You know, if it's not in the Quran or the Sunnah, then it's not Islam. It's as simple as that. You know, but, you know, it's not, that's too much of a complicated thought. But anyways, back to the future of the US, there's a lot of different ignorances to overcome. And if the next election, they elect a Democrat and think the Democrat's going to save them, then in my case, is game over. It's game over because we don't have many elections left, in my opinion. Like, this one should have been the one that woke people up to, you know, to the scam of the duopoly. You know, Trump is a fraud, and I've been calling Trump a fraud from day one.
Very quickly,
go on, True.
Here. This is just on some of the ages of consent countries around the world that, you know, the rabbi would think they should just raise their collective IQs and know better. So Nigeria, it's 11 years old.
Okay, True, shut the fuck up. You spoke all night.
Philippines.
You spoke all night, man. Stop talking for a little bit. I just want to give you three. I just want to give you three facts to Adam.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for dropping them. All right, so Nigeria, 11 years old, age of consent, the lowest age globally. It's a Christian country majority. Philippines, 12 years old. That's a Catholic country. Angola, another Christian country, 12 years old. Niger, 13. Comoros, 13. Burkina Faso, that one's Muslim, 13. Japan, 13. Hey, Rabbi, do you want to tell the Japanese people who have one of the highest IQs in the world to raise their collective IQs because their age of consent's 13? You want to tell them that? You still feel smart, really. You fucking retard? No, I know you don't.
Here's the thing.
Democratic Republic, no.
Hold on. You
Brazil, Colombia, Peru, Paraguay, Ecuador.
You addressed me. I get to point out
and
that
a bunch of European countries as well, including Germany, Italy,
I'm not saying
Portugal,
that
Hungary, Austria, Serbia, Albania.
I don't give a shit.
Hang on. Pause. Because I like both of you guys for what it's worth. I'm kind of curious, Rabbi, can you explain to me where the immense animus seems to be stemming from, so we can at least understand the dynamic that's here, and then maybe we can give both you guys a little opportunity to just share your takes and where that might exist.
That's the thing. I don't know where this came from. The guy before me was the one who was criticizing age of consent laws in the Middle East. I just said that they exist, and they existed in chaotic environments. That's it. All right? I didn't say bad or good.
What does that even mean, Rabbi? What does that even mean?
For some reason...
What does chaotic environments even mean?
Hold on.
And that's not what you said. Let me correct you. You said it's medieval. You said it's medieval, and it's 600 years behind Christianity because it existed 600 years behind.
Again.
That's retarded.
If you have to jump in and talk over me,
I'm just correcting you. You lied.
It just makes me right, and it makes me you terrified that I'll be able to explain why you're wrong. That's all that means.
Rabbi, nobody's terrified of you because you're full of shit. You're a bigot. You're a liar, and you won't even stand by what you said. You think Islam is medieval. You said Islam is medieval.
This
you
is
think
me
that they have a low age of consent and
they
just marry their cousins. You just said that 2 billion people just marry their cousins and do child marriage.
I can't have a discussion like this.
Then don't. You can fuck right off. You're not that important.
I can't have a discussion with this.
Poor
this
you.
Is third grade shit.
Why do you think you're worth a discussion?
We're just. I've lowered my IQ to yours because that's where you're at, bro. Because you don't come with any evidence. You didn't know what the biggest Muslim country was.
Medieval.
I don't understand how to sweeping generalizations about age of consent and that they married their cousins. You had to go Google that it was in Indonesia.
I'm just a medieval Dark Ages cunt, man. I don't know how to debate. I'm sorry.
I'm being told that I said things that I never actually said.
You know it's a recorded space,
now you
right?
didn't say
because of those
it's a recorded
things.
Space, right? You're gonna lie? You're that embarrassed
That's
now? You're
cowardly. That's really
you're gonna have so much fun
where are your
when
balls
you're
at?
recording truth.
Rabbi, I thought you're progressive. I thought you're alpha male. What happened? Stand by what you said.
I
Be a
am
man.
being told.
Do you like my name?
You know what? Go write your bullshit music.
That I never
your garbage music.
Said,
go fuck around with your music and go
I'm
do something useful.
Mr. Rabbi,
debating is not your thing. You've embarrassed yourself again.
A chance.
I have one question,
to
and this is my only question, boys.
Why
Rabbi,
you people are fucking hallucinating?
Do you like my name, Rabbi?
I don't know who you are.
No, I removed that guy. That was.
I don't know who you are.
You know what? That was good comedic.
Is that a fanboy?
Is what that was. That was a fanboy who came in and said, "Do you like my name?" And then he repeated himself like 4 or 5. Do you like my name?
Yeah,
it's very creepy.
But the point is this, guys. Right? I'm coming up here. I didn't say anything controversial, but I'm being told I'm a bigot. I'm being told that I don't give a shit about Muslims, that my philosophy used to justify the war on terror, that I was cherry picking, that I was criticizing Islam.
All of it's true.
That I don't care about brown people dying, that I think I'm smart. None of this is true.
Listen, when you declare yourself to be superior,
I'm appalled that people that are ostensibly as intelligent as Truth and Adam would gather any of this from what I said. And the only reason it seems to have caught on is that I get interrupted and prevented from clarifying this to you people. You just heard something that your amygdala interpreted as vaguely hostile to your in-group and filled in the details yourself. Adam, that goes for you too. This is unfortunately part and parcel of these kinds of conversations when you don't understand topics. But people, you need to distance yourself. You need to distance yourself from your own bias.
It's very clear what he says.
Rabbi, why do you clarify? Why do you
do not have
Go ahead.
an actual criticism of anything I said? Kindly stop talking. Don't make shit up just to come after me.
No one's making anything up. Did you or did you not say that 2 things? 1, that Islam is medieval. Did you not? Did you or did not say that?
I didn't say that. I said Islam is going through its medieval phase.
It's going through a medieval phase.
There is nothing.
What do you mean?
Islam
what do you mean by that?
Is no more intrinsically medieval than Christianity is because Christianity also went through.
No, you said Christianity is 600 years ahead of Islam. Did you? Did you not say that?
Christianity is 600 years ahead of Islam because time is linear.
You're going to stand by that?
622 years by exact.
Morality is not a thing you innovate, you retard. You don't innovate morality. It's either right or it's wrong.
I didn't say morality. I said it's 600
years.
Then you
said nothing. Then you said something wrong. Like,
so just a second. Hold on. When the Catholic Pope blesses gay marriage, is that part of the progression that you have in mind? Is that the evolution you have in mind with Christianity?
Yeah, this is actually where Christianity becomes unstable and it has to right itself. Christianity is losing. Christianity is becoming non-competitive
progressive. Is
because
that what
it
you
has
mean?
become
Like,
too tolerant.
There's gay churches now.
You got
gay
churches
now. Pastors that are
The
gay.
problem is you think you know what I'm saying when you don't. You think that I'm trying to say that Christianity is great.
No, listen.
I don't think it's great.
You need to communicate better.
I've heard what you've said in previous conversations. You do think that Western culture.
I think that what you need to do is learn to listen with your ears instead of your mouth.
No. There's only two options for you, Rabbi. You are either a very bad communicator or you are being very disingenuous. Those are your two options.
He just doesn't have the balls.
I'm being disingenuous.
Yes.
To say what he stated before.
You know
the
how
guy
what you
is
said
made up shit wholesale, but what I said is calling me disingenuous.
The Western culture right now, with all of its ills and perils, unfortunately, because the Jews have destroyed it, because they've infiltrated with this feminism, with this gay culture, this LGBTQ, kids' minds being hijacked, changing their genders, gay pride events, doing all kinds of lewd acts in public in front of kids. You think that's somehow progressive and that makes women free and people free because they can go out naked during these gay pride parades and do gay sex acts in front of people?
No, again, you're putting words in my mouth.
Drag queen storybook hour. You think that's superior?
Putting more words in my mouth.
When education levels have declined, when you've got lower literacy rates and high crime,
hardly speak
you think
with
that's
all these
progressive? No, but the problem is you're not going to be able to win this debate because you're just simply wrong.
Oh my God, I can't taste anything. All these words are getting in the way. I'm having difficulty breathing.
And all you did was play the victim card because you're too fucking ignorant. You probably never even left the States before. I don't even listen. I'm not fond of the UAE regime, but I've been to UAE. You know, in the UAE, women don't have to worry about walking out late at night at 2 o'clock in the morning and getting raped. You don't have to worry about getting robbed. You can forget your wallet at a restaurant and no one's going to steal it.
But we came back to me
unlike what you find in the West, unfortunately, where I've grown up my whole life, that's what you have to deal with. Theft. Women have to deal with getting raped. Whether you have to deal with pedophilia and all kinds of other crimes.
Yeah.
Okay? Those are perils of the West.
Again,
that's no longer superior culture when there's 30 million people living out on the street that are homeless. Do you understand? The taxes are high and there's $38 million in debt and things are mismanaged. That's not superior culture anymore. That's inferior culture. Do you understand? Because it's been decimated, unfortunately, by the Jewish takeover.
No, you said it was an inferior culture.
Rabbi, have you ever traveled before? What countries have you traveled to?
You made it up.
What countries have you traveled to, Rabbi?
Fantastic.
So you're taking back
what you said. The question? I'm waiting. I'm sat quiet. I'm waiting for you to answer.
You're just making shit up and telling me that I believe it.
I'm asking you to answer the question. What countries have you traveled to, given all this knowledge that you think you're so based to make sweeping generalizations like that? Where have you been?
Wait, haven't you ever been? You're saying I can't
have
talk on the topic unless I've been to the countries? Have you ever
experienced any other cultures other than your little fucking hick town that you're in? Where have you been?
Of course I have.
Cool. Let's hear. Where?
I'm not going to say where I've ever been.
You want to say where you've been? Okay, that's great.
No, not going to do it. Because frankly, you're not controlling this conversation. This conversation is about you making shit up and calling me a bigot.
I see. So you didn't know what the age of consent. You didn't know what the biggest Muslim country was. You had to Google that. You didn't know that the lowest age of consent is actually in Christian countries. But you told 2 billion Muslims to raise their collective IQs and that their culture is 620 years behind Christian culture. When was Christianity established, by the way? Do you know which year?
70 AD.
325.
Well, was established around
the Nicene Creed. That's when you actually had the first Christian country. So you don't know fuck off. You really are stupid.
You really are stupid. 33 AD, roughly.
Sure. 325, bud. Anyway, before it became widespread. Okay, fine. When were all the Gospels written? When were all the Gospels written?
Not 600.
When were all the now it's 300 years. So you're off by 300 years. So you're the smart one here that thinks he controls the conversation when he doesn't even know his own fucking religion. When was the Great Schism? When was the Great Schism? When did the Catholics split from the Orthodox Christians?
Seriously,
what year was it?
At this point, I'm beginning to think you feel threatened by me because I'm not disagreeing.
What the fuck is threatened by you? You're a fucking rabbi. A wannabe rabbi because you're a sick, disgusting excuse for a human being. You're a bigoted piece of shit. You're a white trash fuck. That's what you are. Okay?
Why do you need to fight me all the time?
Who needs to fight you? I'm exposing you for the fraud that you are. You're a fraud.
Yeah, I'm definitely not a rabbi. But seriously, truth. I agree with you on most things you talk about.
Why do you call yourself a rabbi?
Why do you need?
All right, we're gonna play a game here. We're gonna start with everybody. Take your fingers and pinch your earlobe, and with your earlobe being pinched, say "woosah, woosah, woosah." I learned this from a very special man, and he taught me in a very high mountain that if I woosah, I feel better. So with that, we are going to allow Rabbi Malleus 30 seconds of unabridged communications to provide his position. And then after we do that, we will go to Justin because Justin has woosah'd and Justin will bring down tensions. So that will be plan, and I look forward to plan B good. Rabbi, it is your turn.
Thanks a lot. My point is just that, listen, if you're going to criticize me for something I actually said. If you want to make shit up, put it into my mouth, I'm not going to take it seriously. I can't, because that's not how this shit works.
Do you want to reclarify
now,
That's your retort. That's your grandiose argument.
Do you want to reclarify what you meant?
Seriously? It's pretty weak, man. Listen, so you stand by all the bullshit you said. You don't know anything about Christianity, which you espouse, you claim is superior, and that's fine. Hey, I'm an Orthodox Christian, but I would never say stupid things like you just did, okay? Because you're retarded. If you're a real Christian, you don't think that way. But I don't know who taught you. You've obviously grown up to be a racist asshole who just thumbs his nose down on people he doesn't know because you don't travel at all. You think other cultures are 600 years behind. You didn't even know when Christianity was actually officially established as a state religion. You don't know when the Great Schism is. Do you even know the difference between Orthodox Christianity and Catholicism and all the flaws within? Or the pedophilia scandal that took place within the Catholic Church? Do you know about any of that shit? Is that all progressive to you as well? And all the ills, perils of current Western society that take place right now because the Jews have taken it over? That's not superior. What more is there to say? You come with no facts, no real arguments. Just come with your stereotypes and your bullshit. And here you are smirking with your emojis, thinking everybody's laughing with you. They're laughing at you. You made an ass of yourself. That's it.
And now we will take woosah and we will go to Justin.
Hello there. Thanks for. I've been listening since you guys started on when this war started. I think 10 days. Somebody said all day long. It feels like I've woken up because a lot of this information I've not been exposed to. Especially with just the Middle Eastern knowledge and the politics and everything. I was kind of headed towards this place, and I had my best friend growing up. Like he's we're no longer friends. He's Jewish, and he exposed me to hardcore porn when I was 10, and then as an adult, I've had a number of business experiences in business with Jewish leaders that were not good. So I kind of had that kind of planted some seed of some suspicions of something's not. This is happening too many times. Something deeper is going on. Anyways, one thing I wanted to quickly say was Tanya, the MAGA woman that she jumped on here, and that's what all of this is about. It's all just tribalism. Like this, Israel is just tribalism with much smarter people, and it's a really crazy time because this was this year 2024. That was the first time. I'm halfway through life, you could say, based on stats, but. That was the first time I voted because growing up, I always thought, voting is bullshit. Nothing changes. Clearly, this is all staged and this is ridiculous. But I got sucked into voting last year. I voted for Trump because I live in I just saw many things like this country is going down here really fast. So okay, let's do a Hail Mary and vote for Trump and see what happens. But it's really insane because it's clear as day now that our country is absolutely occupied by Israel, or you could say Jews in America, and it's really shocking because it's not just in politics; it's in everything. Jewish people are embedded in everything, every industry. I mean, I'm sure a lot of you know that or Americans. Private equity has gobbled up nearly everything in the United States. You can't go to a veterinarian business office without it being owned by private equity, and private equity is a majority owned by Jewish people, or a significant percentage. Last I checked. So, and there's 6.3 million Jews in the United States and 7 something over in Israel. But my point is that it's 2% of the population, but that 2% packs an extremely powerful punch. And I just cannot. I've been able to predict things quite a bit, things that happen in the future. My personal track record, I feel, is pretty good. And I just cannot see a way out of where the state of our country. I'm just like saying all these things to kind of vent and also make fellow Americans realize where we are at and how big of a deal this is. What I mean is voting doesn't matter at this point. It really doesn't. You can talk about Democrats, Republicans, the next election. We're going to vote this guy. We're going to bring this guy up. Even if this guy starts as a truthful, innocent, good person, once they get up to the top, they're going to be presented by money's going to be thrown at them, and they're going to be compromised. That's just what's going to happen. We need a total system reset. And the only way that can happen is by a legit, literal civil war. And
this is not an advocation for that, just FYI.
Absolutely, this is not.
I want to throw it out there.
Yeah. Definitely not advocating that. Well, this is just my prediction. We'll see what happens. And also, like, obviously, with all over. I mean, it's basically become mainstream with Israel occupying our government. Of course, you've got tons of MAGA Republicans that don't believe it or don't care because they're Christian, and they have, like, my brother's a good example of that, and he'll never look at Jews as the enemy. And I'm not saying all Jews are the enemy, of course, but it's bad for everyone, because it's bad for non-Jews, because America, if you're American, you're getting totally screwed over in every way possible. Which, hearing a lot of what Truth has been saying, and others for the past 10 days. I mean, I even heard somebody say that the illegal immigrants coming into the United States, like 20 million in the past 4 years or something like that, was caused by Jews. Like, I don't know if that's true or not. That's what I heard. But, it's just started as far as Jews starting to be the target in mainstream. And if they've got to be scared. I mean, if this continues, like, it kind of makes me, I've heard these, like I said, this is all kind of new information. And I saw that they've been kicked out of whatever, is 100 and something countries 1,000 times or something, like some numbers kind of close to that. But it's like, oh, wow, this is why. This is why. This is it. And so anyways, those are that's where my head is. I just needed to rant. You always grow up feeling, oh, America's the best and nothing can touch us. But we're about to enter a war potentially, and inflation, we hear about this debt, and there's no way out. There's no way forward without something catastrophic happening. Whether that is complete financial ruin, we become like a Latin American country where there is zero middle class. That's probably going to definitely come to fruition, or civil war, or Jewish people are going to be highly, highly targeted. Those are the three things that I predict. That's at the forefront of my mind. Okay, that's it. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, Justin. I just want to add on that, we're already getting there to the eradication of the middle class, because if you look all across the West, the average savings that people have, the average savings of people in America and Britain and Europe, people don't have more than a few £1,000, a few $1,000, a few €1,000 in the bank account. And when you look at what the average salary is in most countries, you're basically working to pay bills. You're working to pay bills. The only people who are free from this are boomers, because, they don't realize how much the game has changed. Because you no longer have a stable job for life. The average job duration now is 2 years. 2 years at a salary that, now minimum wage is not much higher than a graduate job or job, after you finish university or college, as you call it, and so inflation since 2020, since they printed trillions and they keep printing trillions. And again, this is the financial system that's going to kill the West. All that printing, inflation since 2020 is basically 50%, and people can't keep up with it. And if you look at wage growth compared to inflation and compared to house price inflation, it's it's nowhere near. Did you know that boomers make more than the average salary of your country based on home price appreciation alone? So, and that's a non-productive asset. All the money of the West has gone into a non-productive industry, which is real estate. Real estate does not cure disease. It doesn't feed you. It doesn't produce wealth for you. It's a money suck, and so many countless trillions are wasted on it. And if I mention we need a house price crash, oh wow, you're gonna get a lot of hate for that, because a lot of people, as their wealth is put into it. But the economy would be so much better. But that's not going to happen. What's going to happen is there might be a crash when you have a recession, but then they're going to print again, because the West is addicted to printing money. And when you print again, yeah, man, by 2030, I'm just very black-pilled on this, like this whole system needs to be abandoned, this money printing system.
Well, and to add to that, the one thing, and I'll throw this, Justin, right back at you, the scariest piece of all of this is then recognizing that if you're the people at the very top of these totem poles, and you don't care about national borders, you don't really even care about national identity, because to you, the world is just your playground because you've got infinite money. You also are completely indifferent to what you just described, which is complete financial collapse, right? If that benefits your machine, you're going to smile as it all happens. And it's, this is conspiratorial or whatever you want to call it, but it feels like the orchestration is not just inevitable, but that is by design, that it's being accelerated, and that all of the acceleration in the insanity that we're seeing in the West is because they're near complete with their process, right? As maybe nebulous as that sounds. And it's not just political. It is a financial process. It is a media process, which is part of the propaganda machine. I mean, Justin, you suggesting that, the last week or so, you've learned things that you never had heard. And yes, when it comes to things like immigration, we could point to HIAS, which is the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Services, which this is wild. This is a group that is funded by Jews, run by Jews, and it predominantly funnels mass migrants from Central and South America into the United States. I say predominantly because they also assist individuals from Africa. Now, what's weird is not just that it's a Jewish organization that's one of the largest contributors to the many Jewish organizations involved in this, but that if we look at the people involved on the board just a couple years ago, it was Anthony Mayorkas, who was the Secretary of Homeland Security in the Biden administration. So this is a Cuban Sephardic Jew who, prior to taking on a role where he's supposed to protect the border, was working for an organization doing that which is antithetical to protecting the border. He was literally assaulting it. And so it goes to show the absurdity of the system. Go for it.
I was going to add in, it gets better, Ian, because that Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society, there are Christian immigrant aid societies. There are Christian groups, Christian NGOs. But here's the thing. They get their money through HIAS. So the government sends it to HIAS. HIAS distributes it to the Christian orgs. When they need money, they contact HIAS. HIAS contacts the government. The government cuts them a check for millions of dollars. And so it's essentially you have this mask of Christian organizations So the Jewish organization can be like, no, it's not just us, it's Christians too. But they're the ones actually controlling all of it.
A quick question is this, it's like, why are Jews doing this? Is it rooted in scripture in the Old Testament, or like opening the borders to the United States of America? In why?
Well, it's the first thing to remember is it's not literally. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. And look, this is a very complex question. There's going to be lots of answers that you could apply to lots of different people in lots of different parts of the world that may or may not be Jewish. And I say that because, there are individuals at the top of Fortune 500 companies that have benefited tremendously from globalism because they've been able to pad their pocketbooks, right? We've seen executive compensation go up 2, 3, 5, 10, 100x, depending on where you're looking at. And so the most sinister piece of all of this is what has basically happened at 1 million feet, not even 50,000. But if we go up 1 million feet, let's go up 6 million feet for the jokes, for those that might get it. If we go up 6 million feet and you look down at what's been happening over the last 100, 200 years, you basically have an ideology that believes itself. Now, this is rooted in religious doctrine. And it's also, I believe, an expression of a genetic aspect, but that's a much more conspiratorial element, right? But Zionism, basically, if you go into the Talmud, which is a Jewish text that's basically the collection of let's say, the oral traditions of the rabbis, right? This is the idiot's guide to being a Jew. It loosely suggests that they are, because of their chosen status, destined to lord over everybody. And that sounds hyperbolic, but it's basically it's more or less exactly spot on the right way to define it, because they believe they're going to have 20. Oh, sorry, Justin.
Yeah, and what the biggest mind F for me is, like, you've got people that like Sam Harris, the famous atheist that is that is as smug as any other Jew you come across. So they believe like that elitism or like what you're talking about in rooted in scripture, that from the Talmud, that they're superior, etc. But like, how can Sam Harris believe that if he's an atheist?
No, here's the problem.
I think it's DNA, like you said. It's extremely. Go ahead.
He's an agent. He's part of a group, of people, and their job is to operate what they call the Islamophobia industry. That works on people like Rabbi, and it's just a way to keep Western people, especially white nationalists, boomers, on the reservation. It's a way to keep them engaged, that the enemy is, because people fear the unknown, and if you increase that fear, you increase your control over the people that are fearful, because you create the problem and then you provide the solution. This is how they work. This is always how they work. They always create the problem that you have, and they always say this is the solution, and they make you focus on the problem and the solution. Meanwhile, they're robbing you the entire time, because the mass migration, it helps, because Bernie Sanders is actually more based than any Republican when it comes to mass migration, because he knows he's against H-1B. Donald Trump is for H-1B. Bernie Sanders is against H-1B because socialists in this matter are more based in libertarians, because they know that when you start importing people from countries that have a lower cost of living, they'll work for comparative pennies to native citizens, and that drags the wages down. And that's why Trump, even now, has backed down on mass migration for farms, hospitality, restaurants, all these other industries, because the business class have said, we can't afford to pay people a living wage. We actually can't afford it. So please don't make us have to do that. And Trump said, yes, okay, don't worry about it. We fuck the Americans. We'll keep paying people a lower wage. But because it's coming from him, they'll hate it. But if a Republican says that, they'll hate him. They'll be like, oh, you're evil, you hate immigrants. But when Bernie Sanders says it, then all of a sudden people get it, because it's coming from a leftist. And people need to evolve past this tribalist mindset of left versus right. It's literally the 0.1% versus the rest of us. And mass migration only benefits the 0.1%, because of what I said. It keeps your wages down. It inflates the prices of all your assets, and it burdens all of your critical services and like hospitals or aid or whatever, and all the economic arguments for the benefit of mass migration are fake and hollow. And that's why you'll find that, base people on both the left and the right agree on it. And, another thing, like, when you base your argument in bigotry and hate, like, things like that Rabbi and other people were saying earlier, it makes rational, normal people, normies, want to cross the street to get away from you. And this is why the anti-immigration argument has been, it's been radioactive for so many years, because you let people like Tommy Robinson and the ADL and the EDL lead these movements, because who the fuck wants to be associated with bigots, and so no one wants to talk about immigration anymore until even now, where it's still taboo, but because things are so bad, people are willing to talk about it now a little bit, about mass migration and about the problems and the issues that have been caused. And even now, like, there are enough resources to go around. The true solution to everything is to tax the 0.1%, because there's more money than is in circulation in our economies hidden offshore. There's countless trillions that are hidden, but because we can't get a global tax of the 0.01%, I'm not talking about your average millionaire. I'm not talking about taking the money of your average millionaire, I'm talking about the 0.01%. 8,000 people on this planet own more than the other 8 billion people. Just let that sink in. 8,000 people own more than everyone else.
Profit shifting. I think it's called profit shifting. They just move the money out of America.
Yeah, it escapes.
It's impossible problem to solve. Yeah.
So people focus on immigration instead, and it is an issue, and I'm just saying, even if you fix the immigration issue, you'll still have the same people oppressing you. You'll still have the same systems of oppression. You'll still have a media that works against you. You'll still have a business system that is placated to by your government. You'll still have neoliberalist politicians that are out to screw you, and you'll be back at square one because you have no control. And that's what you should be focusing on. But people don't do that. They focus on, I hate brown people. And that's, do you have any other solutions? No, I don't have any other solutions. And people wonder why nothing ever really changes, And so we'll see what happens, man, because even Trump let you down on mass migrations, and nothing's being done about it.
So, Justin, a big point of this, and I want to make sure I get this in too, is that the Jewish culture is oriented towards conquest. Like, it's the entire thing. The books, like you look at the Talmud, look at a lot of the Torah even, a lot of it is oriented around conquest of its neighbors. And this originated with a need to conquest the Middle East, or to conquest the Caribbean, the Mediterranean, right? But since we became globalized, became larger, the world became smaller, the same practices make it very easy for them to take over the countries. So look at the way that Judaism is passed down. Judaism is passed down through the mother. What does that mean? That means that when everyone else is passing down their ethnicity through the father, if one country goes to war with another country and kills all the males, because in war back then, they would kill the males and keep the females because they, distribute them as war brides. What that means is, even if all the males in a Jewish country are killed, Judaism itself survives, because the mothers pass it down to their sons, and then one generation passes, and the conquering army finds themselves Jewish, all right? You look at the way that they prevent work on the Sabbath, right? You're not allowed to work on the Sabbath, but you are allowed to take non-Jewish slaves and make them work for you. So you have an immediate incentive for everyone to engage in slavery. And where do you look for slaves? All the countries around you. So that's an incentive to conquest, right? And then you look at probably the most powerful weapon of war they have, which is usury, right? They engage in a practice which is probably the most insidious and powerful way to take over other countries, which is simply charging interest on interest. This is what they killed Julius Caesar for. Julius Caesar had passed a law 2 weeks before they killed him that said that you're not allowed to charge interest on interest, only on capital, right? The quickest way to solve this problem, all of this shit, would be to outlaw the charging of interest on interest. Because that takes away their ability to rake in money without doing any work, which is their favorite thing.
Yeah, you mentioned conquest, but they're certainly not warriors in the stereotypical sense. So are they like the most highly evolved warrior, where they don't have to fight? I don't know.
So Justin, what's wild about you saying that is even the Mossad slogan, "Through deception we shall wage war," right? This is a group of people that, for whatever reason, and even right now, I mean, look at the behavior. And like, I know for some people that are listening to this that might be maybe foreign to these ideas, it might sound like it's somehow radical or hateful. But let's look at the series of events over the last 2 weeks, which is why we're in this space when it comes to Israel and Iran, right? Israel, after conducting 18 months of open genocide on the Palestinians, which the entire world basically said, hey, you're not supposed to do that. The ICJ got in and said, hey, Netanyahu, you and your senior officials are wanted for war crimes because we think you're ethnically cleansing the Palestinians. The United States, the UK, and a couple other governments, not only did they say, kick rocks, ICJ. So think about this. They said, hey, court, you're not allowed to go after Netanyahu. But then they sanctioned the court. They said, how dare you charge this man with genocide, as the entire world watched them do it. Israel then turned and Trump said, whatever you do, don't attack Iran. And then they attacked Iran. And then they got missiles back and then they said, woe is us. And they cried to the United States, who now has also launched missiles on Iran. And what is Israel doing? They're saying, we need to be protected. God, pray for Israel. And it's like, wait a second. You were the bullies. Why are we praying for your safety? You guys threw the first punch. And that's the wild piece, is that people in this intellectual circle, they will say that the Jew cries out as he strikes you. And it sounds like a trite trope and a hateful slur and all these things, but look at what we've witnessed over the last 2 weeks. It's precisely that. I'm not kidding you when I tell you that there are news articles coming out saying that we needed, and by we, I mean the Western world, we needed to have empathy for the psychological pain endured by the Israelis because of the genocide they had to do to the Palestinians. Think about that. We've murdered 250,000 people. Now feel bad for us because that hurts our psyche. Like, it takes a lunatic to author something like that. And then you look around and for decades, not just news articles and headlines, but books about how whites need to just go away. Whites are the devil forever and ever. They're responsible for everything, including, of course, slavery, which has been the eternal burden of whites. They should feel shame forever. Except guess who owned the slave ships? Guess who owned the disproportionate amount of slaves? What if it was the Jews? And even saying the word the Jews is somehow horribly offensive. But let me ask you a question. If you said you're athletic, I'd be like, all right, yeah, I am. And then if you turn to somebody else and you said, hey, you're athletic, wouldn't they be like, yeah, that's awesome? So why is it, if Jews are good, why is it that saying someone is a Jew a slur? Isn't that weird? Why is a word off limits when it's literally it's a descriptor? And so to that idea of what's going on in the world, Adam used the term agent. There are agents everywhere because we live in the Matrix. And just like in the Matrix, you got a whole bunch of people that are designed to keep you asleep. Because the moment you start to notice things, like when Neo sees the black cat go twice by him, right? What is that? Oh, it's a glitch in the Matrix. Well, we are the glitch. There's no other way to say it. We are the thing that is upsetting their machine. And the thing that's so scary is once you realize that there's a person behind the curtain, the Wizard of Oz, if you will, once you see that, you can't go back. You can't get put back inside the Matrix. I guess the Cypher guy tried to. But that would require completely rewiring your brain, which they can't do. At least not for right now, because Elon Musk hasn't got his chips in everybody just yet. Elon Musk, oh, by the way, who has 4 Jewish women with which he has 14 Jewish children. Kind of weird. Because speaking of agents, we could also look at Facebook, YouTube, Google, Instagram, Netflix, Disney, Oracle, Salesforce, LinkedIn. I mean, I could go through literally all of big tech. And then we could go through all of the media. And then what you realize is every screen that you look at, every newspaper that you've picked up the entirety of your life has pretty much been owned by a similar set of interests. And they are designed to keep you in this matrix, which is why Donald Trump can go out and he can say he's going to bomb Iran for the betterment of everybody. And most of the country is just going to nod along and say, yep, that sounds good, as everything gets worse and worse and worse. And Trump doesn't build his wall that he promised you from 2016 to 2020. And what did that beget? 20 to 30 million migrants. And Adam talked about how they just want you to hate brown people, and he's exactly right. But that's one of the many things That's why they roll out LGBT ideology. And if we look at where that came from, sure enough, it's Weimar Germany and Magnus Hirschfeld, a Jew. And that was one of the primary things that the National Socialists said, we don't want this. So they had a book burning. Why is it that even in Indiana Jones, The Last Crusade, they show you the book burning, they sure as hell don't tell you that it was trans-related and genderqueer-related paraphernalia? Because you're not supposed to know these things. And where do they all come from? Why is it this group of people? It's all really bizarre. It doesn't mean that we have to hate anybody or any of those things, but if there is a parasite that is destroying the entire Western world while simultaneously taking all of your resources so they can build their next colony in the Middle East, well, then we should at least be aware of it. And if the people like Donald Trump want to get into office and put out an executive order saying that they're going to combat anti-Semitism, which is us merely noticing that our homes are being destroyed by a group of people, well, then we got to stand up. And we got to get everybody to do likewise. Because only once we do that can we have an honest conversation about what might be a problem. And look, I'm sure that Adam, myself, Truth Teller, all of these people, we're happy to be wrong. I would love to wake up tomorrow and find out I'm totally wrong and Trump's going to fight for the US and Keir Starmer's going to fight for England. But that's not what we've seen. And after decade after decade after decade after decade, you have to assume at some point that it's not going to happen. And so we're going to keep doing what we're doing. We're going to keep trying to wake up everybody that we can. And then we're going to demand peaceful, righteous, just conversations. Because at the end of the day, the thing that is my Northern Star is my religious ideology, which might be different from Adam's or Truth Tellers or whoever. But what I can tell you is whether you're Muslim or you're Christian, you both look at Christ as a positive figure. The Jews say that he's burning in hell. That's not an exaggeration. That's in their Talmud. So when they tell you that it's Judeo-Christian, you should say, does that make any freaking sense? Because how can I be aligned with somebody who literally not only thinks that my savior is in hell, but who murdered him in the first place? And how ludicrous is that? And why don't people know it? Well, probably because not only is the church subverted, but if you don't go to traditional church, maybe the Catholic Church, you go to Joel Osteen. Well, he's a Jew. What a weird coincidence. So we could play this game 1,000 different ways. We could do it across religion, across the media, across tech. We could look across the pharmaceutical industries. We could look at all of the companies. I shouldn't say all. Almost all of the companies throughout COVID. And if you look at the top of Pfizer, Moderna, all of these companies, what do you notice? It's the same pattern. So is there a group of people that intentionally launched a vaccine to mass murder millions, arguably billions of people who also have a history of doing similar things like poisoning wells, literally and figuratively? Well, then maybe we should talk about it. Sorry for the long rant, Justin.
Yeah, it feels like they're all working together, but there's no way there's not like some Jew app where they're all coordinating this world destruction. I mean,
oh, there is. It's called Temple. They meet Saturdays.
Okay. Well, this was blew my mind.
That was a lighthearted joke there by Rabbi. Yeah. And look, I'll be the first to say it. There's plenty of very, very good Jewish people. There's also plenty of really terrible non-Jewish people. Right. And there's individuals that are obviously working for this machine of all faiths. It's really important to keep that in mind. And if we look at what's going on with Iran and with Israel, is Donald Trump Jewish? Some people might claim that he is, but he would say not. His eldest daughter certainly married the Kushner family. They are obviously American Jews. Right. But there's all kinds of people. And Adam was just talking about how Bernie Sanders is one of the most starched opponents, if you will, of mass migration, perhaps. Well, Bernie Sanders is a Jew. So in some issues, I align with him far more than I do the non-Jews in politics, right? And so it's worth noting that this is not an everybody is anything, but there is a pattern, and it's particularly relevant when talking about Israel and Iran and the United States sacrificing all of its remaining military and economic prosperity for the pure benefit of the state of Israel.
Okay. Thanks a lot. I'll pass that on to the next speaker. Thank you so much.
Yeah, sure. And Justin, one more thing, Christianity and Islam, I know Rabbi hates the second one, but they both what's the word? They both outlaw. I think Islam's harder on it, but they both outlaw usury. They both outlaw interest, and Americans. This is why I always say it's theater. Whenever an American politician claims to be Christian and they put that cross on their head in ash, I'm like, okay, so you'll put a cross on your head, but you won't ban usury. How does that make you a good Christian, in my opinion? You won't even talk about it. You won't even talk about banning usury. I mean, so how are you going to say God bless America at the end of every speech and not talk about usury once? Follow your religion and ban usury. Otherwise you're just LARPing, in my opinion. Yeah, that's it really.
I was going to add, what's happening in Israel, it's part of, a 100 years old project. And, they're just getting started. If you know anything about the Greater Israel Project, like they plan on annexing Lebanon, part of Egypt, part of Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Turkey. And I don't think people that do support Israel that aren't really in the know, I don't think they really think too far ahead of what that would actually mean for the U.S. Because you brought up Jews don't do the fighting. We're the ones getting drawn into the fighting. And if the Greater Israel Project is finished, they're going to have control of one of the most wealth resource regions in the world. And, they're not going to need the U.S. They're not going to need the U.S. to fight. And the U.S. would likely be weakened. And, all the other countries.
Sorry, guys. Just some breaking news. Iran launching missiles towards Israel right now. Appreciate Malcolm, Ian holding down the fort for the last few hours. But yeah, Iran is launching missiles towards Israel right now. That's happening right now. So obviously we'll give you the news and the updates as and when they come in. But yeah. Okay, yeah, we've got footage coming out. So yeah, we'll continue giving the news. I do continue with our speaking, but yeah, Ian, Adam, yeah. So you're seeing the same thing? You're seeing Israelis leaving the Knesset?
Yeah, I'm seeing that. I'm seeing that in the news as well. It looks like alarms have just been set off. Yeah, towards central Israel. But nothing in terms of any footage yet.
Yeah, so, it's not, Palestine is just the start. And, them getting their hands, the occupation, getting their hands on Palestine has really given, world Jewry a home base to organize where they're not going to get persecuted. They're not going to get kicked out. They can isolate. They can flee, there. There's not any extradition laws. So, in my mind, it is the product of World War II. It is the highlight of you could call it the New World Order. And
right. So we are, guys, we're just gonna speak about the attack right now. But we are getting the first piece of footage. Let me bring Carl up because he's probably gonna have some knowledge of this. We are getting the first piece of footage coming out, and it is in the nest. Footage shows members of the Knesset.
There are sirens. There are sirens right now in occupied Palestine.
Sirens everywhere. The footage shows members of the Knesset Finance Committee abruptly leaving their meeting and heading to shelters after rockets were fired towards Israel. Carl just played the sirens going off in Israel right now.
Awesome. We should dance.
Don't worry, Rabbi. Let's see if it will be near. If it is near, you will listen the explosion 10 seconds after the sirens will stop. Let's see. Let's count to 10.
Yeah, I'm just looking. There's no visuals of any impacts at the moment.
No, I don't hear the explosion. Ah, fuck. Okay. I will give you update if I listen anything, okay?
Yeah, I appreciate it. Do give us updates as and when you receive them. Apparently, there's 2 different waves. So 2 launches, around 5 ballistic missiles in each launch.
Suleiman, have they stopped sending the drones entirely? Is that something they're not doing anymore?
No, they sent drones. Sorry, bro. Like all the days have merged into one for me now because we only slept like 1 hour in the last like 3 days. But either yesterday or the day before, it was actually drones they sent.
Do we know if they're sending?
There was a massive explosion. Wow.
Oh yeah.
I wish I lit my mic on. It was massive.
Huge explosion.
How close?
I don't know if I could hear it, and it shocked my walls. So I don't know. It was massive.
Oh fuck.
I don't know how close. As I said, I'm 25 kilometers from Tel Aviv. But it was massive.
All right.
Yesterday, there were 10 massive. I heard like 10 as massive as the explosion that I heard just now.
Are you close enough that you can see them coming down in the sky?
No, me, I cannot see them in the sky because you cannot even you cannot even see skies. Everything is building in this fucking occupied territory. Building and building and building. They destroy the nature of Palestine, the ecology, everything.
So some of them were intercepted in the north. That footage is in the nest. So apparently in Carl said the explosion was heard in Tel Aviv as well. So, okay. Impact in southern Israel as well. I'm hearing impact in southern Israel as well.
There's a missile landing in Ashdod.
Yeah, I've got impacts in. Oh no, wait, sorry, no, not impacts. Just air raid sirens.
Yeah, got you. What you said was accurate. I've got the pic of the missile hitting Ashdod. Well, some smoke rising from it. So we're getting the first footage of a missile hitting Ashdod. See smoke rising. So a missile did hit Ashdod. Let's see what else we got. Here. But more footage coming from Ashdod. Yeah. Yeah, we're getting more footage from Ashdod. Nathan, thanks for joining. Do jump in with any news you have as well.
Cheers, bro. Can you hear me this time?
Yeah, we can, yeah.
Yeah, no, because I joined a few times before, just before the launch to tell you about the launch, and then I was going to tell you the second one was coming, and then, I don't know, you guys just couldn't hear me or something. I kept talking and no one was responding. I was like, what the fuck is going on? So I just restarted the browser. Because I'm using my, I'm getting like you guys, I'm using my laptop.
I'm using my phone. I'm not even on my laptop. I was actually about to go to bed.
They're saying 10 rockets were launched.
Yeah, 10. Two different waves, apparently.
Is that an electrical substation that it hit?
There's the footage from the missile that hit Ashdod. I'm not sure,
I'm looking at the latest photo. It looks like it's some kind of electrical station.
Okay. Interesting.
Apparently, we have more missiles that have been launched as well. This was released from the IDF a minute ago. It says additional missiles were launched towards the state of Israel. The public is requested to continue to follow the instructions of the Home Front Command. The IDF repeats and emphasizes not to publish and share footage of, and locations of hits. The aerial defense array is currently identifying and intercepting threats.
For more images of the smoke
explosion that I hear, they cannot say they intercepted. Okay, this was the same as the explosion I heard yesterday, and we all know what happened yesterday. It shocked my walls. So they cannot say they intercepted it whatsoever. The problem, we are dealing with an entity that modern journalists as daily bread, okay, and arresting, and they don't allow any international press. That's the entity we are dealing with.
Just a quick update, Carl. Sorry. So it was apparently, they're saying the power station in Ashdod was hit, apparently, but that's not been confirmed, but there are people on the ground who are saying it, but the distance from where they are, it's a bit farther away, so you can't tell exactly what's been struck, but they're claiming it's the power station.
Nathan, can you send me the info about the second wave? What you mentioned about what the IDF released?
It looks like we have another rocket falling in Hatziva as well. And now Israeli media is saying that we had 5 rockets that fell south of Tel Aviv. So that's significant.
5 you said broke through. Is that what he's saying?
It says 5 of them fell, yeah.
Interesting.
I guess that means they would have had to broke through.
So this is another notice that's come out. They're saying that it was detected late, and these red alerts are for Safed and the surrounding settlements in the north of Israel.
We got one more missile has fallen in the Lachish region, wherever that is. Lachish.
Do you know what some Israelis do when all other Israelis in the shelters, they come breaking into houses and steal? I am not joking. There is now a trend.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Also, just real quickly, they caught two more suspected Indians, well, 2 Indians suspected of espionage activities against the, well, one sec, I might be misreading this.
Another wave of missiles has been launched towards Israel.
You guys saw they did strike and kill the head of Mossad, right? Dave Barnea?
No, I didn't
see that.
No,
I
I
just,
they're hiding it.
I just woke up.
They're hiding it. I waited a couple days to post it, but it's been confirmed by a few different agencies. Israeli media is not commenting. They won't confirm, of course, but multiple sources say they've killed him. He was in the Mossad headquarters when it got struck.
Who's this again? True, sorry.
The director of Mossad, David Barnea.
Interesting. They for some reason they never announced these big wigs. They always just like, I guess, secretly bury them and have memorial services for them because you never hear about them.
Your mic's got some static.
Sorry, it might be because I'm on the computer.
Yeah, confirmed. Another barrage is coming.
Have you been able to see any incomings on the live CCTV, Sully?
I'm not looking at it right now, to be honest. I was in bed, so I've literally just got both my phones out, just doing it through my phones.
I was going to say, I never seem to see anything visually, but I always get the sounds. You can always tell what's going on by the sounds.
Yeah. The second or the third barrage, but then the new barrage, apparently that's heading to southern Israel.
So I'm seeing that there are explosions in northern Palestine, and then there might be some casualties. I'm getting ready to put a video in the comments.
Up to now, the only visual footage we got coming out is from Ashdod. But let's see what else. Remember, they've got a blockade of footage coming out from Israel.
Ashdod was a port where they took Greta and the flotilla, yeah?
Say again, sorry, Carl?
I say Ashdod, I think, is a major port city.
There is.
And I think they took Greta and the flotilla to there.
There is a major port in Ashdod, but I believe there's some people. I was reading. Some people thought it may be the port that was hit. I think it's what these guys said that they think it's the what was it again? Everyone, what did Rabbi you say you thought it was? I think that was right.
Power station.
Yeah, people. That's what I'm getting more reports as a power station.
Mhm. I don't know if anyone knows how to check this, but there was a sign in front of it that said AD06. I don't know if that means anything or it makes it easy to figure out where the station is, but if anyone knows how to track that, go ahead.
Did you guys see that American official admitted that they don't know where Iran's enriched uranium is?
400 kilos missing.
Yeah.
I don't know where it is.
Yeah.
For like 900 bombs.
I literally posted that just before the attack from Iran.
Yeah.
Just real quickly, we also have confirmed hit in Tel Aviv as well, in the center.
I had that as well.
Yeah, I sent you a video of it.
Well, I'm putting all these in the nest, but obviously these are coming thick and fast, so just watch out. So he's just putting this one in the nest. Sirens in Al Asnasa right now. So what else we got? Yeah, is that Tel Aviv? I was in that footage before, but it looks like the Ashdod one, doesn't it? Nathan.
I'll have a look again and see if I can confirm it. That's it. Also, I've got reports of red alerts in Ashkelon as well and surrounding settlements.
Yeah, what do you think of that footage? I think it seems like that's Ashdod again, isn't it? What do you think? Or do you think it is Tel Aviv?
Are you talking to me? I'm trying to geolocate on the map at the moment. Sorry, I couldn't respond straight away.
Look, I'm hearing another impact in northern Israel.
I got 3 new videos in the pill.
They're just not allowing footage out, isn't it? So you're basically having to give whatever you've got. But yeah, that's another impact in Tel Aviv. That's what over here.
Oh, we got photos of the buildings that were hit. One of the buildings that was hit in Beersheba. Oh, and we got a video of a direct strike.
Where?
Northern occupied Palestine, so somewhere in Israel, somewhere in northern Israel.
Okay.
We have a shot. We have an image of Ashkelon as well.
Just a couple points on Ashdod. I was curious why they struck it. So it's an important regional industrial center. It's also a big port there. It's Israel's largest port. It's the south of Israel's only outlet to the Mediterranean. So if they strike that, that's a big deal because it'll cut off Israel's main port to the Mediterranean. See,
we got another impact. Another image of impact in southern Israel.
Did you guys see the reports of strict surveillance imposed on missile impact sites? Did you guys hear me? I was saying, did you guys see the one, the report there says strict surveillance imposed on missile impact sites?
I think I read that, yeah.
Also, there's a possibility this might have been a cluster ammunition as well, a cluster munition, just to throw that out there, because there are reports saying that it might have split into multiple munitions.